Okay, so I have gotten myself into a little bit of a pickle. um, so we have successfully created and tested the new functionality using a PDA for a mint as well as its authority. But when thinking about next steps, so I've run some tests, those are working, but thinking about next steps is like, how do I implement and integrate this with my Ledger program fully? So one of the ideas is to, when a user connects, they create a new ledger, and behind the scenes, the program will be creating a new ledger for them, but it will also be creating an associated token account if necessary, and mint them supply. So we've seen that, and it's working through testing. However, we've seen part of it. We've seen the custom like dApp token mint. I can initialize it, and I can mint supply to an associated token account. That we've done, and the tests work. However, when integrating it with the createLedger, it gets a little trickier. So, for example, let me find my current. Let me just go back a level. So my current program, high level, has a few entry points, a few instruction functions that handlers that we've created. And recently I just created these two. One of the things that, the idea is like I would like to create a ledger, and then inside of that invoke the mintDappTokenSupply function. And what I'm learning is that it's not quite as easy. So if I go to my createLedger instruction, we have our state, our ledger account, and our typical createLedger context. And I've got some comments here on things that I've been considering, but like how could I essentially, you create a new ledger, everything goes well, but then I'd like to invoke the mint supply to create the associated token account. Obviously, or at least I think in theory, from the client side, I could do something, I'll do it on this one. Or like I could do a await program methods create ledger, yeah, and then once that's good, if that's okay, then I could do an await program methods mintDappTokenSupply to that. So just keep them separate, but essentially run them. I could wrap them all into, say, I have like and this is just, some async function that I create called, create ledger handler, and inside it does something like this, where it invokes both of these program methods, one after the next. So first create the ledger, make sure that that's okay. If all went well, then invoke the second one, and we're good. Yeah. So on the client side, I feel like you can kind of compose and tidy this up. However, one of the challenges, I'll just comment this out for, as a general idea, but one of the challenges is that how could I do that from the program side? I have this context, this validation struct I've already created. It's got all the accounts there, and we've tested it and it works. But I have also done the same thing for minting supply, right? I have this validation struct, which honestly is not really necessary. If I pull up this example, that kind of introduced the idea of using a PDA for both the mint and its authority. What they do, and certainly could be done, is just modify an original validation struct to include all these additional accounts. So when you look at how they invoke, the whole creating or mint to instruction, I'll zoom in. This whole thing is really, I don't need a separate instruction and validation struct for this. I really don't. I could combine what I have here in my mintDappTokenSupply. I could combine all of this and essentially move it into the createLedger, just like in this program where they're using add movie review, and they are just updating its struct to include all the necessary accounts and to do even the init if needed, which would be, something I would use or something I am using, and then just update that instruction. So you kind of have it all mashed together. My question was, or is really, could I, there's something about having just a little bit more focused instruction handlers as well as validation structs. So one of my questions was, could I combine these two in a way where I don't have to completely rewrite them, where I basically get rid of my work that I've done here, and instead, and also maintain or keep the createLedger kind of intact. So up to now, I honestly haven't found a way, and without totally complicating something as simple as this use case, because really I don't need it. I can simply just do something similar to this add movie review, but for my own createLedger, where I just combine, I add a few more accounts that are needed, such as the associated token program, the mint, even maybe the authority token account, things like that. Like I could certainly update these accounts, expand on that, and then just implement the actual CPI mint2 here inside of the createLedger, and then we're done. Everything's kind of managed and taken care of. That, I think, certainly could be an option. I did explore a little bit without trying to break too much stuff, but just like you can implement for a CPI context. I was looking into what could I do to create just a context that could then be pulled, that uses my my own validation struct, which still needs a lot of all these accounts, which obviously if it needs these accounts, then I might as well just, it's overcomplicating it. And I didn't push this any further, because as I was going through it, I realized this is not the right direction. So, and I did look around. Does Rust have kind of a merging of two structs type of thing where you, and yeah, kind of, it could be done for sure. But again, in this use case, it just seems to really overcomplicate things. So I'm not entirely sure how to do what's the best approach. If I think about it from the client, if I really just were to package them up as single, different instructions with their own validation structs and whatnot, keeping as is, and just wrapping them maybe together or whatever in a handler that will do both creating the ledger as well as minting supply. So I think I'm going to go for this and just see, what can be done and if I encounter any issues along the way. But something to be mindful of as I was thinking about, well, how do I really implement this or integrate it along with my existing ledger kind of functionality. So that's where I'm at. So to make the test, I have created, probably should put like a little note or update using user 3 to test. So we're going to try this. I have a user 3 wallet and a user 3 token account. This is just a placeholder. The wallet's just a key pair. I do need to provide some, oops. Where did I go? Sorry. Need to ensure that my new wallet has some supply. I am just expanding on my test, on all these tests. I know it's getting a little unwieldy. There's quite a lot of stuff back and forth, but I think for now, just want to continue using and expanding on this to see. And also, having gone through this, I definitely think, given time, I would redo and just create some helpers that are for creating ledgers or minting supplies and wrapping those all up and then using them inside of these individual tests, because it's getting a little out of control. But that said, let's go ahead and, so that's kind of the idea. I'm not sure if I can do this or what the user experience would be, but I think since I've already got the instruction and the validation and they're two separate things, and I haven't found like a real easy way to kind of nest the validation structs and whatnot, it seems like maybe this could work. Oh, which reminds me, let's see, where was that? I was asking on Anchor Discord again, as always, and super helpful people as usual. But this has come up, how do you nest in Anchor validation structs? I believe it could be done to some extent. That said, it has to be a pretty simple scenario. And also, I don't know if you can nest like context structs inside of another, type of thing. So, but you also have to be mindful of certain Anchor specific macro attributes like init, close, and whatnot. Apparently, there are some issues with that, and it doesn't seem to be quite the way to go. So, and I also haven't seen too many examples of this, so it kind of tells me that there's probably a reason why. So yeah, so that's just where I'm at. So back to this, let's see, I'm gonna essentially copy what I have just recently created. We're going to, if I run all these tests, then the mint dApp token mint would be initialized, so good to go. But we would have to then, here we are with a new user essentially. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to let's move all of this, and we will call this for user 2, and I'll go ahead and should work. Should help. I did change, one thing I did change is I was calling, I had the accounts as user token account and user, but I changed it to authority token account and authority. When looking at my ledger and entries, I was using authority to really represent the wallet. The connected wallet, so for consistency there I went and just changed those, and that works okay. All the tests continue to pass, so just trying to keep it consistent. dApp token mint, here we are. I feel yeah, so I feel like this would create supply for us, but one thing that I need to do is I'm going to copy some code for a simple ledger. So we're going to have creating a ledger. Yeah, we could start here. So let's pull this over. I don't know if I have a variable called ledger3. Ah, I do. It's been a while. I've used ledger1 and ledger2 in my test so far, but I haven't done anything with ledger3. So okay, change that. Token mint. This would be the dApp token mint PDA. Authority. I do have a, we're going to call this one user3 wallet. Public key. Token account for the ledger, token program, rent, yeah, feel. Yeah, okay, a lot of the same thing, sorry. Feel like that should do it. My first one is creating, probably should maybe wrap this in a try catch. Yeah, how did I do this one? Yeah. Hmm. You know what? I wonder if I could just take this whole. I don't know if that's the way to do it, but trying it out. So if we are able to create a ledger, great. First thing, and then after that, try to create our mintSupply, which if this is the first time, which it would be for the wallet, then it will create a new associated token account. Yeah. Updates the mint. Curious. I don't know if this is. Yeah, I think this. So if it makes it through the first part, and see if we could do that. So, yeah. I'm going to clear, let's see. Make sure that I'm on the correct node version. And then let's oh, you know what? I think I already had it. So I'll rebuild real quick. And I'm only gonna do ledger for now. I don't need. I've tested the other ones already. After some of these changes, nothing was modified for them, but now that this is good, then I think we can try anchor run test, and let's see where this blows up. Oh, hang on. Let's do anchor run test ledger. Oh, I have it pending, and why is it failing? User token account not provided. I did change the name. So createDapp. User token account. Okay. Have I missed? Ah. I believe it's reading old. Yeah, it's reading the wrong IDL. It's reading, this is old. hasn't updated with my changes. So let me fix that. Okay. I had to rebuild everything, and now it should be good to go. So now let's run the test again. So createLedger. Oh, Ledger. Oh man. Almost there. So let's try this again. I commented it out. I made it pending. I told Chai to essentially ignore this one. So let me boot everything back up. All right. Get lucky. Okay. Well, hey, look, this weekend managed. It failed because of I didn't update the expected values. That's all. So the actual value here, and I'm not sure where do they say that error occurred. Line 841. Yeah, right here. So because at this point this is technically the third time that that supply has been minted, so yeah, that, let's see, same kind of thing. So we would have that kind of supply, but the token, hang on, token account info, no, the dApp, the mint supply would be that times 3. However, the token account is new. The first time that we've done this for this particular wallet. So it's not a times 3 there. And I need to get rid of that extra parentheses. So that would do it, essentially. So if I go back to the error, everything was able to get through here. Yeah. So we were able to create a ledger using this transaction. I missed this. It's not ledger. It's the problem with copy paste. I think, yeah, need to definitely spend some time. And the more I do this, you know, these tests, it's helpful. You can reuse the code for sure, but when you build these tests like this, note to self as I do this more and more, I'm going to build at a high level just some helper functions that do this at the top, and then have these tests run those helpers. And I think that would simplify things. And when it comes to applying this inside of my front end app, I think I could come over and just copy and reuse a lot of the helper functions. So yeah, note to self. But that said, I feel as if we're making progress. So what I'm going to do, I made a mistake with the name, but I'm going to grab, how is it, createEntry. Yeah. Let's do some more copy paste. But this time, yeah, we're gonna just change it. So createLedger 3. This is mintSupply to user 3 wallet. Create ATA if needed. And then create ledger 3 entry 1. Okay. Expanding on this thing. And what that means is below this part, I'm going to actually call this ledger 3 entry 1. We're using a lot of this code. Let's close this up. And it's going to complain like crazy. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, let me clean this up real quick. All right, so I've cleaned this up a little bit and should be okay. So what I've done is this test, it's my final test that I have so far in here. It's going to create the ledger 3. It's going to mint the dApp token supply to the user 3 wallet. It's actually going to create the user 3 token account, associated token account, and it's going to create a single entry for that ledger. And so what I have done is I just did these big blocks where essentially it's just one big try catch for each of the instructions. So creating the ledger, and then down below I've got the minting supply to the wallet using the mintDappTokenSupply instruction. And last, I have another big try catch to create the first entry for this ledger. And I've updated, it's been a while since I've looked at these entry tests and such, so integrating it in together with this dApp token, this dApp mint is a little bit different, but yeah, I believe I've got it all together. Current ledger authority. Yeah. Number, balance, current ledger token. Account, yeah, so I don't know, we gotta just run it. I feel like I've got it built and deployed. I've got the Solana logs running, so let's see what it does. It doesn't get far, does it? Unable to compile. Yeah. Alright, so expected. Did I accidentally delete? Yeah, looks like I did. Yeah, that's not. Yeah. All right, let me address this. All right. Okay. Create ledger 3 something. Entry count. Signature verification failed. You can see that in my logs, it's invoking, it's running the mint2, but seems to be an issue with my entry count. And my hunch is that my hunch is that perhaps the ledger 3, do I update that actually after creating the ledger? Yeah, I do set an update ledger. So if I go back over here, ledger 3, yeah, something about my, one of my thought was that perhaps to create this ledger, perhaps it is not fully done creating the account. So by the time we try to access its entry count property, it's unavailable, it's undefined. I don't know. I'm going to troubleshoot this for a bit. I think I figured it out. So so back in here, undefined, this is telling me that the ledger basically, yeah, it didn't get created. And I originally thought maybe there's some delay, something like that. But you scroll up a little bit more, this signature verification failed. Makes me think that something's wrong with the signer on creating my ledger. And when looking at this in a little bit more detail, I'm deriving the PDA, the ledger 3 PDA. Here are the seeds. The prefix is the same, but right here, authority public key. Originally, in my older test, I did have like authority as the provider wallet, but I actually need to update this. So user 3 wallet, because it's the authority for this particular ledger right here. So that was, I believe that was a mistake, because obviously when it tries to sign and everything, it's going to try to derive and realize that, yeah, this address that you are wanting me to use, when they try to derive and make sure that it has the correct, seeds and whatnot, well, part of it, as I've said, to use the authority account as part of the seeds to derive this address, and I didn't have the right wallet in there. So that, I believe, should have been the cause of that. Who knows what else I'm missing, but that's the whole point of tests. So let's get this going again. Yeah, so I don't know if this is really the way to go, using these two separate instructions. I think on the client side, if I wrap them up like this, I think it should work in theory. But they're all right, cool. Tests seem to pass on that one. And so that was it. So this is cool. So, I mean, essentially our tests are working, but, back to what I was saying, I don't know, it may just make sense to just redo the createLedger validation struct along with its handler function, where you just include these extra accounts, and for my context, but or if I keep them separate, then it looks like, based off, well, crap, hang on, I spoke too soon. Type error, cannot read properties of, well, I spoke too soon. I saw 10 passing. Clearly my my setup, yeah, it's the same kind of thing. Something is wrong with my signer. Yeah, okay, well, back to it. That said, yeah, I think this just not entirely sure if this makes the most sense. But, from the client side, you certainly could package these individual, transactions or these methods, wrap them all up into another type of handler that kind of processes them all. And yeah, so got to keep on researching that. So let me try to figure out what the heck is going on with this rather than wasting your time. Okay, finally figured it out. Got it. The signature verification issue was, well, let's see. I've been working on, let me close this. So the signature verification was that I wasn't passing in the right wallet. So, for example, I got rid of all the try catches. I need to refactor this, but just to get it working, I got rid of all the try catch. There's something that wasn't the right way of going about, because the test will pass regardless, even when certain parts of it would fail. So I just got rid of all that, and this is just one massive test that's doing all three of them. It's creating the ledger, it's minting the supply, and it's creating an entry for that ledger. So what the missing piece was this signature verification. Normally when you're doing these tests, you don't have to, if you don't pass the key pairs, so if you just have like an empty array for signers, by default Anchor and the provider will supply the provider wallet for that signer. And so I had not specified that this is actually the user 3 wallet signing for this transaction, because it's kind of listed as it's listed as the authority to this ledger account. So, and when you are passing for all Solana, kind of transactions, you pass key pairs of the wallet as well as any other accounts that are actually created in the transaction. So in this case, the ledger is creating, we have our token account, associated token account on inside of our ledger. And because we're using a key pair, I need to pass that as well. One thing that, by discovering that you can use a PDA for both the mint address and its authority, it makes me curious, or wonder if I could, instead of doing a PDA for the ledger and then a normal account for the associated token account using a key pair, I wonder if I could use the token account, also assign that to a PDA as well. Not sure. But in this case, how we have it set up is I'm using a key pair, so I need to supply that key pair, and I need to specify the actual wallet. So that was that issue. And then a little further down, same thing. Where I think the mintSupply I had just fine, but the creating an entry, yeah, same thing. Where I'm creating an entry and I'm specifying the authority to be the user3 wallet, I had overlooked the signers. I didn't supply any signers, so by default it's using the provider, which the provider is my local file key pair. So whenever you do something like a Solana config get, you have this key pair path, yeah, and this is your local one. So by default, when you are doing these anchor provider, when you're doing it locally, when it does this whole .env, it's picking up your local key pair path for your own wallet and using that. But in this case, I'm testing it where I'm specifying user3 wallet as the authority and therefore the signer. So missed those two, and that was it. So basically, after removing everything and getting rid of the try catch, this has turned into a really long, clunky test, but it works. So what we have here is, if I scroll up a bit, we've already minted a few times, but here it is creating a new ledger for the ledger 3 name, which was Peach. It's a PDA. There's no entries on it just yet, and it also has the token account that we work with. So after we create the ledger and then we mintSupply, we see that the user3 token account, and if I don't mean to go all the way, well, I think we can, this if you do the % sign, it will toggle between the brackets, and when I do that, that's fine. But if I'm not on the matching bracket, it will go, well, in that case, it just did something I was doing where I'm jumping all the way to the next empty space. So that's a Vim thing. But anyway, so the token account, the user's token account after it's been minted some supply, here we are. It shows that we have the amounts, and the last step that I did was down here. We did an entry, and with that entry we did a credit, so where we credited 5 tokens, but we're using, this was my original createEntry test code, so I copied this down, and so we're using the raw amounts, which is fine, but it did 5 tokens, but I'm getting minted 10,000. So back over here, after the user3 wallet, which is the authority to the ledger, after it creates this new entry and does a credit of 5 tokens, then here you are, the updated amount. It takes our 10,000 minus the 5, and this is what we're left with. So yeah, it's working. So as I mentioned, this is essentially not changing anything to my program. I'm still keeping 2 separate entry points, or a few different ones. So I've got the initialize the dApp token mint, which is just a one-off as soon as we get it going. And then we have the minting of supply along with the createLedger. I'd be curious to know how to do that in Rust to kind of maybe nest or make better use of, these two structs. I think it's in these functions, but if this does not work, and I may come back and change this again, this is not all necessary to create a separate struct for this, but it's nice to know that really I could package this along with the createLedger instruction and just leave them as is, essentially, but package them all up into a handler from the client side, where essentially it invokes one. First it will do the creating of the ledger, and then minting of the token supply. So yeah, on the whole, it's working. I think I need to do a little bit more testing, but after this, I'd be curious to see how this would transfer over to our front end, along with one remaining piece of all this is how should I or could I go about limiting the amount of ledgers and therefore the amount of kind of mint supply that would get minted to a wallet, to a user's wallet. That's something to I'm gonna put a little bit of thought into that, but it's nice to know. Now we have a custom token for the app, and it's working. We can mint alongside after we create a new ledger, and that token can be reused for all subsequent ledgers that get created. So yeah, that was that.